Hey everyone, welcome to the Geekery News Brief, where I quickly or try to go over some of the stuff that happened in geek and pop culture so that you have content to talk about. For this episode, I would like to welcome special guest and Geekery contributor, Sticky Keys.
Hey everybody. Now he said quick and I apologize in advance, but we're going to get there cuz we got a lot to talk about. It's going to be fun.
We also disclaimer because of course, we would like to remind all of you that the views expressed on this webcast are those of the hosts as individuals and do not necessarily represent the Geekiary or the webcast itself as a whole. Because those of you who follow our coverage, Stickies and I, we get messy and there's a whole lot of editing I'll be doing it. So this is basically the edited version that we're sharing with
Right.
you guys.
The Geekiary said my name is Emmett and I ain't in it. So this is going to be sticky and for recorder. I'm ready.
Okay, so first up, again, as I usually begin these Geekery News Briefs, I have to talk about the box office, which, considering the pandemic going on around the world, it's not good.
Not looking
So
great.
it turns out that even though there were a whole lot of people who didn't believe in the pandemic, who didn't believe in the virus, who was like, we need to go out, let us go out, we need to live our lives. Well, it turns out that even though a whole lot of people are shouting about it online, when you look at the numbers, a majority of people aren't necessarily comfortable going to theaters and actually going out and doing stuff. So there were two new releases this week. It was Let Him Go, and then there was this horror movie Come Play, and basically all of the movies that are releasing in the US right now, they are basically in the $2 to $4 million range at the box office. So that's the amount of people that are willing to go to the theaters right now during the pandemic. And I have to ask you, Sticky, what are your thoughts about going to watch a movie?
All right. So first of all, I didn't go to the movies that much before the pandemic because when you go to the movie, that's a minimum $40 night where you're like taking yourself on a date for $50, $60 after you get done with concessions. So I was already staying at home unless I had like a premiere tickets or something like that. But now, especially in this pandemic, I'm a believer. And so I have no problem staying home. And to the point where if there is a new release that I want to watch, I'll cough up the $20. I'll cop up the $25. I think Love and Monsters is 25. I'll cop that up because I understand, what's happening. What I don't get, how are these movie theaters set up? How is it safe in any way? I need to know.
People go there, they actually seat you with like 5 or 6 seats between you. Like you'll
Mm-mm.
be sitting there, there'll be 6 empty seats on your right, 6 empty seats on your left, empty seats behind you, and then you'll be just sitting there watching the movie with the mask on. Like you can't eat, you can't drink, you're just there.
Let me tell you where we automatically have a problem. I'm not going to a scary movie where the scariest part of the movie is the dude over in the corner who gets into a coughing fit. And I'm focused on him. And he's like, wah, wah, wah. And don't touch him. Use a different exit. It is not worth it, y'all. Especially if you can't eat or drink in the theater.
Yeah,
And movies make their money from concessions, like 100%. So I'm like, what? You got a concession hour during the trailer where people can sneak a quick bite and then come out? It's like it's ridiculous, y'all. I'm like, I like the idea, and I mean, of course, it's going to be less money, but overall, I think it works. Where a lot of these movie theaters are converting to drive-ins, and they're moving
yeah.
screens outside, and they're setting that up, and then charging concessions. And usually it's like 20, $30 a car. And then, sometimes I'll have individual tickets, whatever they do. But I'm like, I feel like that's going to amount to so much more money. But I will say, I don't understand why people haven't grasped onto this, that putting a movie online instantly opens up your market. And so you can get millions of views instantly rather than maybe 1,000 people who came to your theater for a week, you know? And so, yeah, it's very interesting to see how little innovation is coming from that sector. They're trying so hard to make things the way they were. And it's like, way doesn't work anymore. Why would you do that?
Yeah. I mean, I don't think that theaters are going away. A whole lot
Mm.
of them might be bankrupt, but I think theater going is still going to be a thing, at least
Well,
for the foreseeable future.
you know what they need to do is turn them into I've seen them where people are like, hey, for $100 you can rent out the theater and just
Yeah.
bring like your friends and family and that kind of thing. That's a good idea. Have it be event space until this vaccine comes out. And I know that people are like, oh, vaccine, they can't see it because it's so far in whatever future, they don't have that understanding. But I'm like, y'all aren't even trying. And then blaming people like, oh, they won't come. And it's like, there's a pandemic. Like, what about that do people keep forgetting? And they're like, oh, yeah, the pandemic part.
Okay, so apparently, according to analysts, theaters won't be properly opening until March 2021. That's why a lot of studios have delayed their movies. Wonder Woman 2 is gone. The new Ryan Reynolds movie, Free Guy, is gone. Uh, Death on the Nile is gone. So they're all shifting towards 2021.
I feel
Now,
like some of those might not be bad ideas.
yeah.
Some of those need to be pushed and reconsidered.
Okay, let's imagine that we are in 2021. Would you still go to the movie? The vaccine has recently been introduced in the
I'm
market.
about to say, if we have a vaccine, probably not in March. Um, I am going to a convention in June. And I think that is the early, because so they have a vaccine, Pfizer and all that stuff, where it's at like what, 90%,
Yeah,
99%, something
yeah.
like that. And so I am confident that they'll have a workable vaccine by December, but I want that incubation period. I want to see how people react. Don't give me a vaccine and then have me come out, barren at the end
We
of
are the first
this.
batch. We are the first batch, the first public batch. I ain't taking it.
It's like,
No.
no, thank you. I will just stay in my house. I am just fine. I can work remotely. But yeah, June. Well, I am going to DC in January for the inauguration, so I'm super excited about that. But that's going to be outside and
Yeah, that's
that kind of thing.
yeah.
So yeah, it's going to take, and even then, because theaters are gross, and it's just they're gross anyway. And so if
Yeah.
you like build up the hygiene, then yeah, maybe. But there's also going to have to be a very big event that just everyone wants to go to. So, and Tenet was not that for me, So,
Christopher Nolan tried. Christopher
mhm.
Nolan tried. He really tried.
God bless that man.
So yeah, even same here. I don't usually go to the movies anyway. So
Mhm.
yeah, no.
And I like a movie theater experience, but I also like being able to breathe, So if I can have one and not the other, I'm gonna choose the breathing.
Yeah, I mean horror movies are being released in theaters, and I'm sitting in the theater all
Mm,
alone, empty seats, and my mind is going to start playing games.
nope.
The seats are filled. I'm like, oh no.
Especially that come play. I was like, no, thank you. I was like, absolutely not. No, because, and that's the other thing is like, when I watch a scary movie, it's a physical experience. We need to touch and agree. We need to do some prayer hands. We need to know that everything's going to be okay with
And
my fellow
also
moviegoer.
that awkward laughing that goes on during horror movies. You scream and then you laugh it off. Like I
Right.
need that.
Exactly. Exactly. I need to look at people and like see the expression on their face of relief. And I'm like, we're okay. We're okay.
But yeah, let's see what happens to the movie theater. It's going to be a rough road. But yeah, theaters will still be here. There's nothing to be worried about.
Yeah.
They might end up being bought up by big studios. Who knows? Like Netflix or Disney have their own theater chain or whatnot.
Mhm.
So, next up, Johnny Depp. What do you know about Johnny Depp and the mess he's currently in?
I actually don't know anything about this, but I'm actually very happy with the replacement. So I thought, but actually, I say that and I've forgotten completely who the replacement is. Um,
There's no replacement yet.
no, they found a replacement.
Who? Oh,
Oh,
really? They
yes,
did?
because I was shocked. I was like, oh, that was fast. Let's see,
Really?
replacement.
Replace
What's the thing called? Final
Fan-
Fantastic
Fantastic
Beasts?
Beasts 3. I don't think they got a replacement.
Or maybe they were
They,
just,
'cause
oh, Colin Farrell. Oh, it
Oh
says
no, he
could
wasn't.
be.
Yeah, because
Okay.
that's the issue. Like, I'll get to Johnny Depp, but the main issue in the Harry Potter franchise, as far as the fandom is concerned, it's J.K. Rowling. Because
Oh, yeah.
any actor who ends up replacing Johnny Depp, he better get ready for all the backlash because people are going to come after that actor on Twitter and they're going to say that you are willingly signing on a project that's by J.K. Rowling. Why would you
So
do that?
this is an issue because this is a prime situation in which the artist does need to be separated from the art. Too many people have been positively affected by Harry Potter. Too many people hold it so dear and cherish it that to let J.K. Rowling's trashiness, besmirch that, I think is a bad idea. And so I know that this movie is based on her text, but I feel like the fans put so much more into it and so much less hatred. So I actually don't mind it being a movie. I don't think that they should rag on the actors for being in that project because this project is for the fans when it comes down
But
to it.
that's the point, because it's not like she just gave it her name. She's literally
Right.
writing the script.
Oh, is
She's the script
she?
writer. Yeah, that's the
Oh,
problem.
yikes. Okay, I didn't know that part.
Yeah, she's
I
literally
wish that
writing the
they would take
script.
her off.
Right? If she was off, then we could kind of have this discussion, but she is part of this project.
You know what I
She's
would love, and I don't even know if this is legal or possible. I just want someone else to write their own version and then have everyone just flock to that movie and be like, yeah, this is that movie, right? Fantastic Beasts. It's like, no,
Beast.
we're fantastical beastuses. And, and then someone else just write it because, yeah, that's oof, magoof. That's a tough one.
Yeah. I guess
What do
Warner
you,
Bros. Was like, we already are dealing with rolling drama.
well,
We
they
don't
have a
want
contract.
we don't want the Depp drama. So Warner Bros. Actually asked Depp to resign. They didn't necessarily fire him because I think that would be a.
Wow.
So they asked him to step down and he agreed.
So okay, so this is also some movie business stuff that I might just not be completely in the know about. But my guess is he had signed the contract really before the brunt of the drama.
Yeah,
Then they started
yeah.
filming, and he was like, can I get out of this? Um, but that is so. The reason they wanted him to step down was just because of like the Amber Heard stuff, or
Amber,
was there more going on?
it's basically okay. So the lawsuit that Amber Heard won, that lawsuit had to do with an article that The Sun wrote. It's a UK publication, and it actually alleges that Johnny Depp is a wife beater.
Right.
So Johnny Depp sued The Sun for libel.
And
And then,
lost, right?
yeah, and he lost because after looking at all of the evidence that Amber Heard presented, and then Johnny Depp said his side, the judge literally said that it's okay for The Sun to allege that Johnny Depp is a wife beater. So he lost.
Well,
That's
because
the case
she's
he
a
lost.
husband beater, and so that's kind of the
Yeah,
problem. But
but that wasn't part of that particular case.
right.
Those
And
cases
so
are still
Warner
going.
Brothers was like, but okay, no. So Warner Brothers then is shady AF because how did they look at that and say not a good look? But then J.K. Rowling is writing this movie. I'm like, because Warner Brothers does not want to be on the wrong side of history when it comes to trans rights and trans issues. So you ain't gonna tell me that Warner Brothers is like, yeah, she can say whatever she wants about trans people. But Johnny Depp,
because
no.
because they aren't making money from Johnny Depp. They are making billions from the Harry Potter IP, which
Uh,
Rowling hasn't sold. She still holds the rights to it. It's not a Star Wars thing where George Lucas just sold the entire franchise to Disney, the
yeah.
IP.
Dang. And she's smart with that, but you're like, I just wish she were dumb for like a second. And just got rid of it all. Ugh.
So the cases are
Well,
still going on. Depp is like, I'm still going to pursue these cases. So I guess Warner Bros. Was like, okay, Depp, you aren't stopping. So why don't you just leave? Because dealing with Rowling is already too much.
you know what? I'm gonna say Johnny Depp has more than enough money. I doubt that he was really doing it for the money. He was probably just, thought it was a fun thing to do.
Apparently he's broke. Apparently he's broke.
There's no way he can be broke.
There was
I
an article 2 or 3 years ago that he was broke.
even paying even paying alimony and child support for Vanessa, and even paying alimony for Amber, I still don't think that he's really broke. He might be US broke, but I
Yeah.
think or he's broke in that way where it's like I used to make, millions a year and now I'm making,
Thousand,
under
time on
100K.
thousand. Yeah.
He'll be
Time
fine.
on
He can just sell one of his many belts and he'll be fine. But
but
I think overall, he can get a role. He can get just smaller roles that will still pay him, still pay for his
Mel
lifestyle.
Gibson is still getting roles.
Exactly.
Johnny
Exactly.
Depp, it's freaking Johnny Depp. He can easily get roles from another studio. It won't.
He'll be
It
fine.
shouldn't
So
be
I
a
actually
problem.
think this is a better look for him than, trying to justify in every single interview why he was in this movie. But then Colin Farrell, come on, man. What are you doing?
Colin Farrell was in part one.
Oh, was
So
he?
yeah, he
Oh.
was part one. He was playing the character in part one, but it turned out that the real face was Johnny Depp, and the fans did not care
Oh.
because Colin Farrell was a disguise for Johnny Depp's character.
Of course he was. What a
It was
mess.
coming to Superman and the Lewis Lane debacle. That,
Yes.
yeah,
Now wait, I'm
that.
gonna correct you for a second because you keep saying Lewis, which is fantastic, but it's Lois. It's not the male
Oh,
Superman. We can't do the fanfic talk.
staring,
When actually
staring it right now.
exactly. Styles Stilinski as Lewis Lane. Yes. This sadly is Lois. Although I do love Bitsy and I think that it's gonna be a very interesting show. But as you know, it kind of ran into a little drama when one of the writers said this on Twitter. Some personal news. Wednesday, I got word that my contract on Superman and Lois won't be extended. My service is no longer needed. My outline and draft subpar. Obviously, I disagree with that last bit. LOL. This after months of flagging Me Too jokes in dialogue, of me defending the Bechdel test, of me fighting to ensure that the only Black faces on screen aren't villains, of me pitching stories for female characters, there's one in the title of the series, that went ignored. If I sound bitter, it's because this one stings. I've been assured by colleagues that I was great in the room, so I know I'm not nuts. I debated whether to post this, but my own mental well-being demands that I do. The only way it changes is to expose it. Red heart, blue heart. So we're going to go more into detail with this closer to the end of the week. But this caught my interest, especially because while I was live tweeting for the Fandom panel, there was a discussion that got a lot of interest and a lot of passionate responses regarding kind of the treatment of women and some things that the showrunner said. So you guys stay tuned for that, but that looks like it's going to open up to something very interesting. And because this is a Black woman writer, she's originally from Alabama, and this I believe her. I believe
Hmm.
100% what she's saying. Just because, even though I had a friend I was telling this about, and she was like, but Berlanti. And I was like, but Berlanti's not the showrunner on this one.
Yep.
Plus, we're going to have an issue only because Superman, anytime you're dealing with Superman, you have a status quo that you have to abide by. And some of the other shows have kind of gotten away with being unique with Batwoman and League. What's it called?
Legend of Tomorrow's
Thank you, Legends of Tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
And to an extent, Supergirl, which,
Supergirl.
as I called, hashtag Sticky Keys is always right.
Yeah,
I said as
I
soon as,
remember. I
yep, as
remember.
soon as
People
Superman
didn't
and
like
Lois,
that.
bye bye
Yeah.
Supergirl. And it's exactly what happened. And so we're kind of at a crossroads right now where we're like, all right, you have this innovative program, you have Black Lightning, you have, this diversity. How much of that are you going to carry into Superman and Lois? And how much of that is going to be up to DC? And how much of that is going to be you kowtowing to DC? So we'll see.
I mean, because I also believe the writer, because this isn't the first time that a writer has called
Yes.
out the CW. It
Yep.
happened with Roswell, New Mexico. It has happened before. It has happened with Supernatural even. And
Mm-hmm.
this is not the first time. It happened with Riverdale recently.
Oh, yeah.
And you remember? But yeah, this is so I believe the writer, like the CW has a problem, and I joked about it. I was like, if they end up making Superman and Lois the DC comic version of Yellowstone,
I saw that and I cackled. And we're going to talk more about why in the next one. But yes, that made me laugh so hard because I was like, oh, I don't know if the internet could take that. We can't deal with that. Not in this
but
non
yeah,
Trump America.
keep an eye out for our coverage because it's happening.
Yeah, that's going to be a good one.
Also, actors getting dragged
Woo!
online
Honey.
because they felt courageous enough to step out of their tiny little bubbles and then ended up playing the victims because they love playing the victims.
Okay, so first of all, Katy Perry can kick rocks. I don't even care what happened to her. I'm like, sis, you just had a baby. Concentrate on your baby.
And Zachary Levi tweeted he got
Okay, that's what I want
dragged.
to know. What did he tweet? I didn't see this one. Because
Oh.
Zachary Levi got real cute with the Black Lives Matter movement. And I was like, I can't keep watching you because I actually enjoy you. And I don't want to not enjoy you. So I'm going to leave you alone for a second. Now, you see, Hecklin got real cute with his. I was like, all right, he learned. He learned. He said, I'm not going to say much. But what I will say is this: make sure to vote local. Okay, bye. We're like, oh, all right, Hecklin.
Ecklin's like, I'm not trying to get fired from a
Nope.
Superman job.
Too
I'm not,
enthusiastic thumbs up.
yeah,
Someone was like, he should have said more. No, 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 honey. No, no.
no,
He did
no.
wonderful. He did great.
For, for once, because the bar is so low for Hecklin, and
Yes.
for once he didn't mess it up.
And for once, he didn't mess it up. He didn't lower it anymore into the ground. It's like, okay, Hecklin, he's doing his thing. My God.
So he actually posted on Instagram, Zachary Levi. He wrote, today. Okay, so this was actually a day ago. Okay, so it's recent, it's recent. So he said, today, half of us Americans are rejoicing, while the other half of us are gripped with fear. With few exceptions, this is the cycle we have been stuck in since time immemorial. We cannot break this cycle merely by electing new leaders. We must care enough about the fears and concerns and hearts of those we fundamentally disagree with. Only then shall we all be seen and heard and loved and free. Oh, there's another. That was the picture he posted, and then he ended up with a follow-up comment. He
Yes.
said,
I was
"I
just about to
rejoice.
go ahead.
Yeah, I rejoice with those who are rejoicing, and I weep with those who weep. We have a long road of healing before us. My hope and prayer is that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris answer that very call in the same way I hoped and prayed that Donald Trump would do the same. But regardless of how her leaders may lead, we have all the capability in the world to treat each other with humanity and grace and patience and kindness and compassion and humility and love. May we all make a concerted effort to employ these gifts immediately, liberally, and without judgment or shame.
Here's my problem. It would be one thing if this were 8 years ago, even. And, we're looking at Obama's second term and you're dealing with the economy. And, it's an issue of taxes and, that kind of thing. But right now, our fear was that we were getting killed in the street and nobody cared, was
Yeah.
that we lost our jobs, was that we lost out on our benefits. Some people had unemployment that just completely ran out. Some people were getting evicted out of their homes. Some people couldn't afford health care, on and on and on. Their fear is that Biden is going to raise taxes
The
on
taxes.
the rich, which then they will actually benefit from. And so I'm like, no, this isn't the other side is scared and weeping. No, they're not. Or if they are, that's on them because they don't have the same thing to be scared about. Some guy tweeted to me, he was like, I hope you're prepared to pay your accountant 5 times as much, your CPA. And I was like, you think I make enough to have a CPA? I was like, what are you talking about? But again, it's just this bubble that people have lived in for so long, and it finally got burst, and they're like, oh, there are other people with like worse situations, and it's not an issue of me working harder and doing more than them. It's an issue of systemic racism and oppression. What? Oh, no,
Those
we're
are
going to
real
get back in
things.
our bubble.
Yeah,
Exactly. And so
they're
we got
real
these
things.
people, they're like, you need to be kind to them and we need to be leaders. And I'm like, no, we need to work to support us, to support the people in this country who want to move it forward. And the rest of them are just going to have to get over it and catch up.
And he didn't stop because he ended up getting into a Twitter spat
Yep.
with certain
Oh,
people.
good.
He ended up tweeting, and he's like, with all due respect, I disagree. To minimize and trivialize all conservative concerns into these trite examples show a great lack of explored empathy, in my humble opinion. Don't just buy the headline or clickbait. I'm like, these are not clickbaits. These
They're
are
not
actual things that are
clickbaits.
happening. And
And
and then he ended up saying, I am no fan or supporter of Trump, and I find his behavior to be vulgar, callous, narcissistic, and lacking empathy. And while I'm not a conservative, I know many who backed 45 not because they liked him, but because he was the only candidate they felt cared about their needs. Like, we're
then
talking about the needs of racist people.
but here's the problem. What are those needs? Because there's not a single need. That first of all, Trump is not good for anybody. So people even like, oh, except rich white men. He's not good for rich white
No,
men because this little extra $100 he put into people's paycheck or whatever, that's going away next year. Like that was short term in and of itself. Plus, it affected so many people's tax return to the point where several of them ended up owing that money right back because it wasn't done correctly. That's a whole nother thing. But I'm like, I hate when people say that we're like, oh, he cares about their needs. Someone tried to tell me, well, Trump is the most pro-gay president. And I was like, what do you think gay means? Because if you mean happy, I can't even claim that, But I'm like, I know you're not talking about LGBTQ because he said several times he's against gay marriage. He won't let transsexuals into the military. And he said he elected freaking, but Amy Coney Barrett. And she had the nerve to be like, it's a preference, a sexual preference. And I'm like, so that's pro gay to you versus Joe, who was one of the ones like, and now mind you, it took them a while,
yes,
but
he
they
has
were the ones who
the bumpy history. Yeah.
they were the ones who, but and that's the issue, as I said, Joe is not perfect. Kamala is not perfect. Kamala, I do the black way, Kamala, but but Kamala, they're not perfect, but they are so much more receptible to change.
Eva
Now,
Longoria on MSNBC, live television.
I'll tell you this first. I'll say this first. I have never really been against Eva. And for the longest time, she always seemed like she was always on the cusp, just slightly leaning to the right side of history. She didn't have the heebie jeebies like her friend Gina Rodriguez. And so I have been avoiding Gina because I knew she was going to, like, people are talking up Black women. You know, Gina somewhere fuming. But I didn't expect for Eva to come out like this. So go ahead and talk about. I'm gonna see if I can't find the post.
I mean, Eva, I actually watched a clip on YouTube, and she was talking about how Latina women came out, and when I think she literally said that they were the real heroines of
Here
the
we go.
situation, and I was like, oh, Eva, no.
Said, oh, I wish I had a transcript of what it was she actually said. But essentially, it was, yeah, Black women voted, but Latinas were the real heroines. We
Yeah.
showed up in huge amounts to vote. And it's the spirit, the Latina spirit that pushed us to go vote and all this other stuff. We were like, oh, oh, okay. And so then people started dragging her, which was lovely. And then she said,
Yeah.
my God. She said, I'm so sorry and sad to hear that my comments on MSNBC could be perceived as taking credit from Black women. When I said that Latinas were heroines in this election, I simply meant that they turned out in greater numbers and voted more progressively than Latino men. The wording was not clear, and I deeply regret that. There is such a history in our community of anti-Blackness in our community, and I would never want to contribute to that. So let me be very clear. Black women have long been the backbone of the Democratic Party, something we have seen played out in this election as well as previous ones. This is where me and her.
Mm.
Finally, Black women don't have to do it alone any longer. Latinas, many who identify as Afro-Latina, Indigenous women, AAPI women, and other women of color are standing with them so we can grow our collective voice and power. Together, we are unstoppable. Nothing but love and support for Black women everywhere. You deserve a standing ovation. First of all, if we were alone, if we were doing it alone, it's because y'all left or you ignored us and we picked up the slack because we were like, well, if no one's going to do this for us, we got to do it for ourselves. And everyone just happened to benefit from it. But I'm like, you're not going to look me in my Stacey Yvonne face. I loved when I found out Stacey Abrams' middle name was also Yvonne. I was
Oh,
like, oh, yes, it's meant to be. But I'm like, you're not going to look me in my Stacey Yvonne and be like, oh, Black women, you guys did fine, but it's really the Latinas. And I'm like, are we talking about this 46%? Was it hold on, I have the number. Because people were like, sis, the numbers make it make sense because the numbers don't lie. They're like, your own county in Corpus Christi didn't even go blue. It was like, and it
yeah.
was, it just barely went blue and it just barely went red last time. And it went super blue this time. I thought I had the actual, it must have been on Twitter, but someone put it up and it was like something like 40% versus 90% of Black women. Or just like, it's the idea. I understand where it comes from. What I need when we fight with each other, we end up losing. But that's exactly what they want us to do. They want us fighting with each other so we don't look at them and be like, oh, hey, wait a minute, that kind of thing. However, the way you combat that is not making sure that you're always heard, but that you are collectively heard. So, you can say, yes, Black Latino women showed up, but then be like, well, they're the real heroines. I'm like, what? That's completely casting out a group of people that you didn't need to do. You could have just said, oh, you can say my personal heroines were also Latino women who voted more than Latino men. Give
Yeah.
us that. But you should have seen, I mean, I know you saw it, but she was just so confident and just like, oh, I'm making points. And we're like, sis, you're making points, but you're also making side eyes. I'm glad you cleaned it up, sis, but I also need you to understand because, of course, one of the very first responses was, why can't Latina women ever celebrate anything? And it's like, but if your version of
Yeah,
celebrating is tearing someone else down to do it,
that's
then what are
not.
you celebrating?
Coming to Netflix, apparently Netflix is working on launching Netflix Direct, which is basically a TV channel from Netflix that's going to air scheduled programs in France.
Now, is it just going to be in France? Or are they trying to do it?
Maybe they'll do it in other countries. Who knows?
I feel like that's dumb. I get why they're doing. I love this explanation you get. You said apparently it has something to do with regulations in
Relations
France
in France.
and the government wanting to control what the public watches and producers being unhappy they don't get to keep or own the IP on the streaming content. And
Streaming
it
content.
comes down to money essentially because French Netflix is a whole other ball game. But the issue is that all this is going to do is make more business for Netflix. And I don't know that the French government realizes. Now, is the French government the kind, so like the British government, their BBC's channels are basically free, and then what you pay for the
Yeah.
TV, is that still a thing?
Yeah, because on BBC, because RuPaul's Drag Race
Is
UK,
on
it ended
Sky,
up
right?
it ended up airing on the BBC Three, right?
Oh, okay.
So
Uh-huh.
so basically, it's actually a free channel.
Mhm.
So they give out monetary prizes.
Right. Oh, okay.
The
Gotcha. Gotcha.
they could give actual money to contestants
Ooh,
because that's
interesting.
apparently banned or something.
So,
So it was so funny seeing the winning queens only getting a little tiny badge. Like, oh,
oh,
you get a badge while the queens in the US are getting $2,000 and $5,000.
exactly. Wow. But so in France, is this going to be like a satellite channel or is this going to be one of their local channels?
That's as far as I can tell, because I was reading an article by Deadline. They didn't explain it. They just said
Okay.
that they actually have Netflix Direct in beta version over there, and
Hmm.
apparently it's doing well. So they're
Yeah,
going to expand it because
of course
apparently
it's
there are
doing well.
certain people in France that don't necessarily enjoy all of the choices that Netflix gives.
Hmm.
They don't want to browse through thousands of titles and everything. And Netflix is like, this will also allow smaller shows that don't necessarily get a whole lot of attention. Then people that are watching scheduled programming, they might end up checking that out because it's the only thing on TV
Well,
airing
that
right
kind of harkens back to our childhood because that used to be the thing where it's like everybody was watching the same thing because it was the only thing on.
now on that
And
channel.
you just watched it because it was on. I think that that's interesting, but don't I don't think that the French government understands how that's not going to be the biggest benefit to them. That is 100% going to benefit Netflix because all it's going to take is them being like, oh, what's this Netflix thing? Let me get more. Like if they show
Yeah.
a Hill House or if they start showing Schitt's Creek,
Yeah, they'll
that
be
kind
like,
of thing.
why do I need to wait an entire week for the next episode? Why don't I just binge watch it?
Exactly.
Yeah, it's going to be a mess. And it's kind of funny that we left streaming and it might end up coming full circle and we might
Right.
end up having to pay for streaming packages, like cable packages,
Please.
$10
That would,
for Netflix and Disney and HBO or Hulu.
I don't like that because the whole point was to cut the cable bill, and then it's just like, oh, here it is again. You're paying for all these different services. But I do think that I'm interested to see kind of where the next step for this is, because I think that, streaming definitely has its thing, but well, okay, so for example, HBO, they showed Lovecraft and it was week by week.
Weekly.
Good
Yeah.
Lord Bird is on Showtime and it's week by week. I think more people are getting used to that, but what people don't want are commercials. And this was an issue I just put on YouTube. I was watching Holland Roden just finished her little van home thing,
Yeah.
her Holland days. And
She
literally,
just does her own thing, and I'm like, Holland, what kind
I
of world do you live in? But I
I
love
love
it.
her, but yeah, I'm
Oh,
like,
I
where
love
are
it.
you, sis? Because
I'm
it is
like,
not on this earth, and I'm okay with it. I just want to know. I just want to know where you are. But her video, like every 5 minutes, it would cut to a commercial, and some of them you could skip, some of you couldn't. But it wasn't at intuitive places. She would be in the middle of a sentence, and it would just
sentence,
cut
and
off.
yeah,
And
especially on when you're watching on mobile phones, YouTube gets crazy with the ads.
exactly. And so I'm like, they need to fix that up. So, and Hulu used to do commercials. I don't know if they just simply don't, or if it's only like with their free, or not
There are
free.
two versions. There are two versions
There
for
you
Hulu.
go.
There's
Okay.
the ad version, which you still have to pay for,
Mm-hmm.
and the ad-free version.
It's
Okay,
right.
so Star Trek Discovery season number 3, it ended up
Yeah.
giving us a non-binary character as well as a transgender character, only for their romantic storyline to feature trauma and death. But the transgender character is still alive because of science and space.
I was just about to say they brought him back, and I thought that that part was actually very interesting. That they're like, you know what, we're gonna try not to fridge you out. We got to give you the drama because that's what we do. But she coming back. She coming back.
Yeah, we're going to kill the queer character, but then we're going to bring them back and we're going to make them immortal. So be happy
Oh,
about it.
okay. Like you here to stay. don't, don't get cute with us. I'm
Even
okay with. I think now. So I don't watch this show. Sadly, I've heard a lot about it, and I've seen like the different things about it. Did they kind of handle it in a like a tongue in cheek kind of way? Like, haha, y'all thought
no,
y'all
no, no.
thought that made
It was a very, very emotional episode. People were literally saying that they were close to crying because
okay.
apparently the transgender character is still alive,
Hmm.
but basically he's alive in the mind of the non-binary character. He's basically a memory. So
Oh,
so the
okay.
actors so he can still communicate with him. He's basically in the spiritual alien space realm. So however, the actors who are playing these characters, they are saying that don't worry about it. This is going to get better.
Okay. I feel like with Star Trek, and specifically Star Trek Discovery, we can trust that if they say it will get better, it'll get better, but we're going to be watching. We're going to have that eye on it. We're like, is it better
Because they
now?
have done this before. Because I remember when they ended up killing one of the gay characters in season 1, there was
Mm,
a backlash and they pivoted the show so quick. It didn't
good.
make sense. The gay character came back. It didn't
Ah,
make no even in the lore, even in the sci-fi lore, it made no sense. But all of the characters were okay with it for some
sometimes you
reason.
just got to get it done, man.
They
Sometimes
were
you just
like,
got to get it done.
oh, he's back. Okay, let's just not mention it again that we killed him.
That is funny. They're like, die? What? I don't know what you're talking about.
It was so bad. It was so bad. I remember they pivoted it so quickly. But yeah, let's
Okay.
see what happens. And yeah, coming to the last thing, happiest season. The trailer. Did you watch it?
Yes, I did.
So
And
bad. I didn't want to say anything because people were excited about it, but I was watching the trailer. I was like, this looks like a TV movie.
I was like, leave her. That's what I said. I was like, you should have dumped her and went home. How dare you? Um, yeah, it definitely looks like a TV movie. I I am not here for Kristen Stewart. People are like, oh, she has these subtleties and blah 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 blah. I've never been a fan of her acting, and I've seen her in many different projects, and I'm just like, I don't get it. But I don't like the other girl either. And so, but I'm like, again, we have an issue where Dan Levy, fantastic. Aubrey Plaza,
Yeah,
fantastic. Just and then Victor Garber, my God.
Garber.
Yeah, and I love, of course, him being like a gay man in real life, playing this very kind of like
Just right.
ultra
Yeah.
conservative. Yeah. And is it Allison Janney who plays the mom? I might
No,
have
no, no,
made
no,
that up.
no, no.
That would be amazing.
Alison Janney. No, that's not her.
Who someone regular played the mom. But who is Mackenzie Davis? I can't place her.
Mackenzie Davis.
She plays the girlfriend.
Oh, she's from that Black Mirror episode, that lesbian episode. Remember? Where they had a
There
romance
we
in the
go.
virtual
San. Oh God,
Junipero
not San
or
Bernardino, but like
Junipero or Jennifer or
yeah,
something.
San Junipero. Yes, yes, yes. That's hilarious because I was like, I know this face, but I can't figure out where I know it from. It looks cute, and Aubrey Bria's in it. Oh, Mary Steenburgen. There we go. So,
I mean, the
I knew
cast
it was
looks
similar.
better than the movie. The cast looks better than the movie.
And I think that that's how it's going to end up being. I love it as a vehicle for Kristen Stewart to kind of, get her bi girl on and kind of like in an official capacity, like this is real, this is me.
And also, it's directed by Clea Duvall from But I'm a Cutie.
Okay. I love Clea Duvall. I love her.
She directed it.
Good for her. It looks just like a silly little feel-good movie. I think it'll be
TV
a fun.
movie, yeah.
It's like a Hallmark movie for gays, basically.
But it
which
also
I'm not
doesn't look
against.
modern. It doesn't look modern, right? It looks dated for some reason.
Yeah. I thought you were
The
saying
narrative.
margarine, and I was like, it
No,
looks
no.
very margarine. Like, but in that satisfying kind of like, sometimes you just want white bread with margarine, and you just want to sit down with a cup of cocoa.
It looks dated.
Yeah, it does. And I mean, understanding what they're dealing with, like, sis, we're not going to be dating and living together as lovers. And then you invite me home and then you tell me you haven't come out to your family. I'm like, I've never understood that whole disconnect because I'm like, I'm not coming home with you if I haven't spoken to your parents and they don't know who I am. Like,
And also then baby comes in the trailer and he's like, even if she's in the closet, it doesn't mean that she doesn't love you because it's not her time. I'm like, that's not a
I'm like,
healthy
she
relationship.
doesn't love herself. Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm
What
like,
are
you
you
need to
trying to
leave that girl alone.
That's what I said, that this looks dated, as if this is something that I could have seen happening like decades ago.
It
That
does feel like a period piece. I wouldn't say decades because
but
people are like, oh, lesbians that aren't horned up for each other. Whoa, we're not doing that. But it does feel very here, not logo, but here.
yeah.
And
It
so
was,
I'll watch it. I think I'm gonna watch it regardless. And I think Dan Levy looks so fun in it, and he's literally just playing himself. And Mary Steenburgen being amazing, Victor Garber, absolute pro.
so he's coming on Hallmark on Hulu.
On Hulu.
This is on Hulu. And I mean, it's on Hulu. They could have done so much more. It felt like a Hallmark movie, like a watered down version of a queer movie for the Hallmark audience.
I actually wonder if she didn't have it sold to a cable network and then that fell through and then Hulu picked it up, is what this looks like to me. It feels very much like Hulu put their stamp on it because they're calling it original, but I'm like, because yeah, like you said, for Hulu, with a show that has Killing Eve on it, you can do a lot with a lesbian story on Hulu. So for them to kind of play this little milk toasty thing, we'll see.
Also,
and she literally said, she's my person. And I was like, never have I wanted to throw up more. She's my person. Or excuse me, in the Kristen Stewart way, she's my person. I was just like, oh
She is basically playing the same Twilight character in every movie.
my God. Even in Charlie's Angels, where her enthusiasm was at a 10, and she still could not muster more than, hey, Charlie. It's just like, oh, girl.
Even in that underwater movie where she was being chased by underwater sea creatures, she
I
was
don't know
calm.
that movie. Ah! But she was, hey, manatees. What's up?
Okay, coming to Hallmark, I think Hallmark is going to give us its first queer movie this year, right?
I don't know. I doubt it.
Wait, coming to the Hallmark movie, it's going to star Jonathan Bennett from Mean Girls, and
He
it's
played
going to,
Aaron.
yeah, the boyfriend on Mean
Okay.
Girls, yeah, and it's going to air on November 22nd, and the movie is called The Christmas House. So Hallmark is going there. It's finally going there.
I mean, okay. Looking
Which
to
was the
adopt
other?
their first child.
Yeah, which was the other?
Interesting.
Because we gotta give you the domestic queers.
Oh, naturally.
What's the other channel? There's Hallmark, and the other channel is
I don't know, like Lifetime, Paramount.
because there are supposed to be two gay movies coming out this year.
Ooh. Well,
Oh yeah,
here.
Lifetime. Lifetime. Lifetime's first gay Christmas movie. Now this is the one that stars the actual queer couple, and it's called
I
The Christmas
literally put
Setup.
in Lifetime and it was like gay Christmas movie.
Yeah, it's called The Christmas Setup. So Hulu is giving us a queer Christmas movie. Lifetime is giving it to us, and Hallmark is giving it to us.
It's a step.
But it's all
I think,
domestic queers. But it's all domestic queers.
well, I think because they're men and those channels are geared towards women, women will be okay with that. I think if you
Mhm.
go for two, you ain't getting two. Not this year, not next year. But
Yeah.
I do think it is an interesting start